All right, we're live.
All right. What's up?
Perfect. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you, Luca.
Happy to have you on my interview, you could say show, or it's not really a podcast. It's more like I interview guests every week and people that I find interesting and I like to know more, so welcome.
Sweet.
You're a coach at the Kettlebell Club. You have experience with a bunch of stuff, mindset, essential oils. Tell me a little bit more about yourself, and we could get going into the mindset and building a solid base.
Right on. Yeah. Well, super honored to be on this podcasty/show. That's awesome. Hells yeah. Like people you find interesting. Super true. I was talking to somebody yesterday. We are talking about being at a networking function. And I was like, when I first started, I'd be like, I'm a personal trainer and I train myself personally because I was like messy in terms of how I was showing up in my life.
Mm,
I was like, holy smokes, I need like a personal coach. Okay, I better become one for myself.
absolutely.
So
Always good to work on yourself. We always want to, like you say, work on yourself personally because before you work with others. So great point.
Yeah, like literally. And it's, for coaching other people and you're walking the talk, being of service requires now I can see it kind of from a different angle, where I feel like I've worked on some parts that were very imperative for building a more solid human, cheesy, and be coach, right? And just having that perspective where now I feel like I'm way more fit for service, fit
Amazing.
to be of service. Yeah.
I love those words too, being of service. It's really, the non-self, not being so much about yourself, but really focusing on other people more. And I've heard that like brings happiness. And I do feel happy when I work more with others and I'm not concerned about my own egotistical needs of what's going to fulfill me, but how I can help others live a better life, or just make their day better. Whatever you do, sometimes it just takes the smallest act of kindness or compassion that will change someone's day. So being of service is, especially in our industry right now, as a coach trainer, it's so important.
I totally agree. And that's like the crux of, that's been kind of my hero's journey or heroine's journey. I've been on this little path where I started to realize I've been so externally referenced, not consciously per se, but as I've grown, I'm like, oh my God, I can definitely feel being of service versus, it's like just having that gap between I'm externally referenced, I'm constantly in fight or flight, I'm just like in sort of a survival mode, and building these cool practices, working with kettlebells, working with oils, changing my diet, where you start to really feel the physiological difference in the mind, in the body, obviously in your power, whatever. And that's the key. It's like more internally referenced. And then it becomes less of like people pleasing and just being like, oh, well, let me share these tools with you. And that's super cheesy, but whatever, man, whatever message needs to get out there is happening.
Yeah, totally. I'd like to know, also, Alison, if you don't mind, I'd like to know more about your history and where your journey started. What made you come to this point where you wanted to help people either become a coach or a trainer? And what was it an event that happened in your life, or some point that you reached? Or like, I want to be of service and I want to help others through physical activity or strength training.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've always been athletic. I've always known I've been pretty fast. I can be pretty zippy on the soccer field or in track and field growing up. But I started to realize also early on that I was pretty hypermobile, like tons of flexibility. And when you're running really fast and you don't have the strength and stability around the joints, it's the hypermobility it led to some beautiful injuries, which I fully appreciate and bless every day now. Thank you, injuries.
The gift.
Yeah, right. Goodness. Like when you're in it and someone's like, you need to see the gift. You're like, I'm going to tell you what you can do with that gift right now. But now, yeah, you know, it's hard, but yeah, so just kind of getting myself, realizing that my foundation was fairly weak and I really needed to dial that in. And then also in tandem with that, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's when I was 12, which
Okay.
was pretty interesting because it's an autoimmune condition that affects the thyroid. So it's underactive. And it's just, the more I've delved in from like a holistic or a whole centered point of view, the word thyroid means shield. So in Greek, so you're either protecting or you're hiding.
Interesting.
It's this, like it's shaped like a butterfly. So your transformation and the way that it's part of the endocrine system, right? So it's the way the body processes energy. So I was super fast and pretty smart. And then suddenly I was about to go to high school and I started to become really lethargic, lots of brain fog, moody, really strange behavior, strange symptoms. And we couldn't figure it out for a while because back then, like 5 years ago, no, like a long time ago, I guess there wasn't as much of a correlation between physiological aspects and the autoimmune condition. At any rate, my point is that sort of led to a lot of really destructive mindset, really distorted body image, very destructive, and just like a complete separation of self, of body mind. And then things started to catch up, and you could still, like, the body's so brilliant. You can throw a ton of speed, you can do all kinds of things to the body, and it's going to fall. It'll keep going even if the patterns are faulty. So as I unraveled, like life kept happening, whatever, and I was like, you know, I keep coming up against these things, these situations that aren't ideal for me, but the primary factor was me. I was the problem. I felt like just my self-perception. So I started to unpack that a little bit, but it's so deeply rooted. I feel like the body's response, your physiological response, your mind response, it's embedded in our cells, in our fascia, in our tissues. And again, the body will be like, you tell me to run, I'll run. And I was progressing, but there was just this niggly, like, oh, this factor is just so uncomfortable. So I started to dial in my practices. And then like the injury was fantastic. I had an injury in playing soccer in 2007 or 8. And it just highlighted how flat-footed I was, how internally rotated my whole posture was. And that was the key, because it started to teach, you're not born, like, you don't have to have flat feet for life. But these embedded conditions where I was like, oh, well, I must this, if it's this, then this. The brain is so malleable. Like, our bodies are so freaking brilliant. Plus
Absolutely.
all these tools. So if you kind of come from that fear-based state where, oh God, here I am, I'm stuck. This is what it is. Now I'm stuck like this for life. I kind of equate it to, I'm just going to be honest, like to machines, like machines that you find in a standard gym, which are great if that's what you're starting with. Like if for very, very interesting for lots of needs. However, if you can get the body to a state of being, it creates the foundation itself. And then you add power and speed, you load effectively. Yeah. That's kind of brilliant for us, right? Where, so I started to shed some of the external factors that were supporting me, and to teach my body mind to be more self-referenced, to create better foundation, to work on rehabilitating my posture. I'm still like light years away from where I want to be, but at least I've really bridged some gaps between body, mind, and
And then like you say, body, mind are so connected, and we're so connected to, we're our body and our emotions. And I realize that sometimes you have to approach it either from the mind or from the body. There's two doors where you can, I think everyone is different, and everyone will respond differently. Some people are more intellectual and they like to go inside, and other people are more like, I like to feel things, feel my body more, and will not tend to overthink So they just want to get inside their body and do things and not worry about the emotions. But they're interrelated, I think. And some people will have to do the work, the internal work, and then the body will sort of follow. Whereas I think others will have a different approach where they'll use the body as means to connect to their emotions better. Does that make sense?
1000%. I totally agree. I was just reading about Darwin. He had written a book, I can't remember what it's called exactly, but about emotions. And he was just talking about how, like, just out in the wild, the way animals have a perception of emotions as well. Humans, so interesting. And it's very true. And I think that's kind of where the state where we're in now, especially when you come from, like, say, like I was more of a, wanting to help everybody, and that's adorable, but not everybody needs assistance. Like it's the one big flag from you that was so helpful was people don't necessarily need your help. Like, it's nice that you want to help, sure, but it's denying that person's ability to be strong and figure shit out for themselves and whatever.
Be independent.
Right. So I think exactly to your point, you start to realize, like, some people are more body based, or they're more emotionally, they need to work through things. And it's cool when you just, as a coach or just as a in service, whatever, giving people some tools, right? And then they're like, yeah, this works for me, then they're empowered, versus being like, I'm the guru coach that is going to control and be and empower you constantly. I know,
there's a total difference between, you don't want to be trying to please everyone. And I think that comes from a validation thing where you're trying to get validated from everyone around you. But if you're confident and you're grounded, like you've been working on, and you realize that you're strong, I'm still capable of helping people from where I'm at, you're going to take away that feeling of trying to please everyone, and like you have to help the world. But we help people personally. It's more of a empowerment. I want to teach you. There's a saying goes, and Valsia had mentioned this in her post the other day, is if you give someone a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach someone how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And I think that's our approach as coaches. We want to feed people for a lifetime coming, and teach them the right way, but learn to teach them to think for themselves also. Like, you're more advanced, and we also should kind of encourage more advanced people to okay, you can do it, and give them confidence. And sometimes they need that booster, right? Like they need that validation, like, you can do it. And then they go ahead and do it, and wow, wasn't as bad as I thought, right?
Right. No, it's so true. It's so true. And I think one of another big takeaway that I felt, the shift internally, is Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Like, if you've been enveloped in a mindset that's very destructive, and you can't get out of that cycle for a long time, your physiology will support that. Like, if I'm constantly like, oh, I feel guilty, I feel shame, then the body starts to expect that response. And then things start to occur where I'm constantly just validating that narrative. And so I did a couple of practices, like specifically with autoimmune, for me, worked super well. It was cutting out dairy, cutting out gluten, cutting out booze, I love coffee because it was so comforting. I was just like,
Sure.
Even when we know that it's not going to help us and you consistently sabotage, it's a comfort thing. But when you can get past that little hump, like, say, or someone's just starting out their new training session, your muscles hurt for a bit, and then you give your muscles a break, and then you go back to the gym. Like, you need to give that space for both parts, the yin yang, for the rest and recovery and the catabolic, right? So yeah, once I cut out dairy, cut out gluten, suddenly the inflammatory things that my body was wasting so much energy trying to manage, then the body was like, oh, well, I don't need to manage that anymore. Perfect. How about I make you some more serotonin? How about I make you some more dopamine? And the shift internally, where I didn't have that toxic need to I was so unsettled all the time. It was like, to be honest, I don't mean to be mean to myself, but I can just imagine how I was a couple of years ago, constantly in fight or flight and a sympathetic dominant physiological state where you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, very unsettling. Must have been very unsettling for people around me. So when you
You're
can,
living in your unconscious, constantly in control, or you could say unconscious, subconscious, right? But a lot of the times we live in autopilot, and we're prisoners of our addictions, or
1000%.
prisoners of what we've adapted to physiologically. And then until we realize that a lot of that stuff is poison, and we make a shift, we decide to make that change. You know, it commends you for making that change and cutting stuff out. That takes a lot of courage. You know, cutting out dairy, cutting out gluten, cutting out coffee. These are things, and sugar stuff, alcohol. These are things we're addicted to.
I'm like crying.
You know, my father was an alcoholic. You know, and then all these things, we're all addicted to these things. But if we decide we want to make that change, it takes a lot of strength, a lot of courage to make that shift, and to decide, you know, this is not healthy for me. I can live a better way, and my body and my mind is going to change as a result. And you made that shift. That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Like it's been cool because it comes like the acceptance and gratitude of it just come in tiny little waves. Like it's really cool, and it just sort of float around. And it's exciting because I was super mean to myself for a long time, like really harshly self-critical, and it didn't make sense. Like I'd play soccer and I was on defense, and I'd screw up, like they'd score, the opposite team would I'd miss a goal,
Mm-hmm.
and I would mull over it and mire, and my team was like, dude, it happened like 8 minutes ago. But I couldn't tether down. Like my emotions, my hormones must have been so off.
Yeah.
And we don't realize, like, so basically, and now I'm like, oh God, like who cares? But because I've healed a lot of those big gaps in the hormonal response, in my diet, in the basically like in the subconscious as well, right?
Totally.
And the work that we do at the kettlebell club, like just the standing plank, I used to be internally rotated. Like I didn't know how to brace my core. And because I was willing and coachable, because I was like, I can't live like this. So give me what you got. I don't care if I'm vulnerable. I don't care if I look stupid. I just want to learn. Like I started out at the Monkey Bar gym, which is now BAM, right? And we were in a coach, like we were doing a certification. And like someone demoed the plank, and I demoed the plank, and everybody was like, oh God, what is that? I was like, well, that's what I knew. And until that point, I didn't know any different until someone highlighted it. But I was so willing to be coachable and to move out of this, the way I had been living, that I accepted, and it's fine, even if it hurts for a bit, whatever. And then just to build a better foundation through your physical body.
Through your physical body.
It's been very helpful. It's
Absolutely.
been mind-blowing for me. Yeah.
Connect the mind and the body. I think we're so disconnected nowadays to our bodies, unfortunately, due to many people's current lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then we become disconnected to whatever's going on. And then that's when sickness comes, unfortunately, you know, stress. And then it manifests into things in our bodies, you know, lack of movement, pain. So
yeah, for sure. And I think it's been kind of interesting recently with quarantine, because it's forcing us to slow down, and we don't even realize what that means. Like what does it mean to be in constant fight or flight, where you just your body's natural rhythms, the natural communication system of like, okay, go, okay, stop, okay. We've just eroded them because we're constantly on. So you know, your processed foods, processed thoughts, processed mindset, instead of doing the balance of rest and recovery and implementing more practices that help you slow down. Because what I found was I was so uncomfortable with being quiet with myself, because I was in so much pain that I had left my dream. Like in my mind, I was supposed to have done da 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 da, and I didn't do it. I didn't even start it because I didn't become the doctor, lawyer, whatever the hell was going on in my head. And the pain of that imbalance, like, oh, I didn't do it, so I was in an expectation hangover of not doing it. So I just like piled my life with all these practices that kept me so busy and distracted from the pain. But the emotions down there were like, the word emotion derived from Latin means to move out. Like the emotions are like, dude, we don't want to take up your muscle space. We want your muscle space to be used for kettlebell lifting.
Movement.
Yeah. So
that
then
makes so much sense too. And when you say the word emotion and you referred it to movement or move out, is that what it means?
Yeah. It's the Latin derivative. Yeah.
Sure. And then movement is therapy. Movement, body movement will trigger some emotions as well, or release them.
Oh yeah.
So
oh yeah, totally.
If we can kind of segue into exercise, talking about what it is we do, we help people move better, to help people kind of release that stress or deal with that stress that we're so used to dealing with. And it's like you said, it's become kind of a status quo, and especially now with the confinement and stuff, everyone is feeling it. So if we can empower people to make a change now during hard times, it's going to be easier to implement, I think, when things start to go back to normal, I believe. But I think now's a good time for people, even though some people may feel more stressed or things are going on around them. There's many types of situations I think people are dealing with. Some people are working more, working harder. Some people are not working at all. Some people are stuck at home. They have the kids around with their family, so they're not used to being around their families so much. The stress of being around with their kids or their husband or wives, and they're used to being at work all day, and that's their form of kind of escape, you could say, from the daily life. And when we're at home all day or working from home, it's a new routine, so things are off. It's like you take a routine and you completely break it off, so it's like totally new. And let's face it, we don't like change. Change is hard. But if we accept change and we realize it's a part of life, things are gonna feel more natural and be okay. I think the biggest thing is we try to fight the change so much, and we resist it. Whereas if we could just kind of flow with it, or learn to accept it, and then be one with it in a way. I know that sounds kind of weird, but things are gonna be more natural or a little easier, I think, on people.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I think, like, for so many of us, like you said, it's distraction. We want to stay at work but then when we're forced to sit with it and we can't leave, or forced to stay in our houses, when we start breaking things down and realizing, like, we're kind of healing some of our body's natural ability to manage things, where if we've been distracted and busy for so long, and now we're slow and quiet, and the body's like, ooh, what's this? We start to implement new practices to realize what we've perceived to be, what we've been distracting ourselves from might not be that bad, or we can just consistently be reframing it and working with it. Meaning, like, I had this idea in my head, I wanted to be this. And for years, I was like, I can't believe I didn't become this. So I must be a piece of shit. I'm not valuable, da, da, da. And like everything I would do would be like, that's okay, but it's still not da, da, da. So my scale was off. It didn't even make sense. But now when I look at it, I took the time to be like, okay, I'm by myself, whatever it is, I'm going to look at the idea in my head that I've perceived to be so bad. And I start paring it down. I'm like, I don't even like that. Like, I am way too empathic and sensitive to certain things. To, like, if, say, for example, like I was going to be a reporter and someone had a car accident, I would be like, oh my God, let me just hold you and cry. And I want to rock you to sleep. Like, it's okay. Instead of getting on the story and being vigilant and, able to handle things. I don't know. Like, I just, so when I break it down, I'm like, it doesn't even make sense for me anymore to to like distract myself from that pain, because it's a BS story. So
it doesn't serve you anymore.
It doesn't. And it's not even true. Like
Yeah.
there's a couple of things, like there's a couple of questions we can ask, like, is it true? Is it really true?
Is it
And
really
once,
true?
you start pairing it or like pulling it apart, it's probably not even that true. But
Yeah.
because it's been so exciting to like build these walls. So I think absolutely to your credit, what you're saying, especially at the kettlebell club, like you become the machine and you build that foundation. And then it's surprising to people. Like there's so many beautiful clients that are like, I had no idea I could lift that. We're like, yeah, because you've been sitting at a desk being like, I wish I was an artist and now I'm a psychologist and like distracting yourself from this pain. But you start to build security
Yeah.
in the body. And then you have more courage and more like tools around you to dig into those nasty parts of our emotional body that are just like protect us. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's so
Connecting
interesting.
back to our strength is something that people maybe they've never experienced before, or they don't know that they're strong. I didn't know I was strong until I realized it, or I cultivated strength. But people
Cultivated,
don't really
totally.
know what it is to be strong or to feel strong physically. You can have a strong spirit as well, and we can discuss. You have strong mind, strong spirit, strong body, so on and so forth. But when you connect to your body and you feel the strength within and you feel grounded, like you said, it builds that confidence. And if you relate it back to who you are, you can realize that this is who you are. You can live feeling the best version of yourself, feeling strong. So this is what we do here at the club, and we've made it our mission to make people stronger, to help people live better lifestyles. Alison, I commend you for your work. It's been an amazing journey
Thanks.
overall, what you've been doing with your work and helping others, and here at the club. So we're really grateful to have you as a coach. Just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
And you have such an impact on others' life, maybe not as much as you may realize. So we're
Thanks
really
for
appreciative of you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Well, it's
absolutely.
super exciting. Like it just, like it really comes from this place like, oh my God, I'm really just having so much fun, not hating on myself. It's so much easier to live where you're just like, I'm not like constantly showered and like, oh, I love myself. It's so exciting. But just, man, the energy waste, the drain on being so freaking self-critical,
Mm-hmm.
what a destructive way to live. And I'm sure so many people are either just in pain, and that's okay. Like until we start to realize, oh my God, I can live another way. I think it's really exciting, and it's okay because we're all kind of in that conditioning until you start breaking out of it. Like I know I can be really cheesy and I just say silly stuff, but it's kind of like my authentic voice loves it so much more than the way I was. So
Totally.
and that's kind of the courage thing too, where I'm like, that's okay. I'm okay with it because I've healed those parts to a degree. Like I don't mind sort of being like the maverick, unique weirdo. I'm cool with it. What was I going to say? But yeah, like that's the thing about strength, man. Like it comes in different forms, and no one can take it from you. Like it's yours. Like you build it. And so even if I hear things like some like, oh, that's cheesy what you're saying, whatever, I'm like, I get you, but and then it can just roll in, and I watch it roll out because it's okay. That's where they're at. That's where I'm at. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like the strength kind of reverberates into lots.
I love what you said, and the strength, no one can take that away from you. And sometimes you don't have anything left. People feel like, I can, look at other, I always consider myself lucky, even when things go wrong, or, you could always feel sorry for yourself as much as you want, but things can always be worse. Obviously things can always be better. But when you have that strength within, for me, it's like I could be anywhere. I don't need all this stuff around me. I'm okay where I'm at. I'm okay anywhere I go. So it's that it builds that inner confidence as well, that independence that I love so much. So it's
Oh
been
yeah,
transformative for me.
I can well imagine. And like, and you taking that and then building like a voila, the gym to
Yeah,
offer it to others. Like that's huge, especially given your past and what you went through. That must have been like really to stay connected to your internal voice then and build it, man, because it's the thing about it too is when we've been in a destructive path, or we've done things to ourselves that put ourselves into situations where we're in jail, or where I just didn't fulfill my dream. Like I was like, I should be in
yeah,
service to people. Why am I stuck here? Because we made choices. So when we get to that, it's kind of like down in that nitty gritty where it's you versus you. Something in you did bring you there, but then
yeah.
having the awareness, you can also build out of it, or
Hmm.
it's always guiding us. Like it's just, I think that's kind of, it's reassuring because you have it in you to, if you did it, then you also have the power to undo it. But here it is, like if you hadn't necessarily made those choices way back then and gone to jail, you wouldn't have necessarily discovered Pavel, and like, damn, look at the
True.
impact you're having.
That's true. Yeah, like I was saying, the strength didn't come right away. Like
Mm,
I didn't know I was strong. I think through hardship, that's where I learned it. And like you say, you go through all these mistakes in your life, and I ended up like at a crossroad to where I didn't live out my dream, and I realized like, okay, I wanted to be like an actor. I wanted to do professional theater, but then I was doing all this crap on the side that led me where I was. So I was living like a double life in a way where I was before. Um, Many of us still do. I believe that sometimes you do things that are contradictory, or they're contraindicated. Like you do
mm,
one thing and then you'll go ahead and sabotage yourself right away. You'll sabotage your progress, your gains, just unconsciously.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I did that. It was a perfect example of sabotaging my dreams. But you know what? I mean, I created a new dream, and I accepted who I was and where I was at that moment, and what I had to do, and the time that I had to spend working on myself. And then dream changed. I think things change over time. You don't want the same things. Maybe you discover a new talent or a new passion that you had, and like, oh, I want to be a journalist. Now I want to do this instead. I'm actually better at this. This is really where I can thrive. But I still have those other qualities that I had before. And so I think we're ever changing, and we don't want to let our past define us, because I think we change every day. Even um, I think I read something in, like, even our molecules, they die and they rebuild our cells. So on a
1,000%.
cellular level, we kind of like reconstruct our bodies uh,
Oh
every
yeah.
day or every week. So
So
we
true.
become new. Actually, we renew constantly. We constantly renew ourselves on either
Yeah,
on a daily
so
basis or
true.
whatever that may be for you. So if you can find a way to understand this, to look within, and sometimes let things go. A big part of it is letting things go. And I was talking about this with Brian, and a few discussions I had with some of my students, that they're dealing with a lot of stress, and maybe they have hard time sleeping because things are on their mind. Is learning to let things go. And the Buddhism has a really cool saying of, the thoughts are like writing in water. So when you take a stick and if you write stuff in water, it disappears. And that's how thoughts are. Your thoughts, they come and they go. So unless we give attention to them, they can disappear as quickly as they arise. That's how the
totally.
mind works. So
That's it.
yeah,
And especially when they're embedded, like I was saying before about the physiology of the body, like it becomes embedded in our tissues, almost the same thought pattern.
yeah,
So I found that was very helpful for people to realize it's part willpower. Like, why can't I make these changes? But then also like detach from that a little bit and realize our whole system has been geared up, or is supporting whatever the shitty thought was too. So you kind of do it on twofold, right? Like we create the foundation to start the changes, but then the mind also hops on board. And then like, I don't know, like if you think about just rounding out your shoulders, like I'm giving you the information right now. I'm telling you straight up, I don't really believe in myself. I'm looking down at the ground. So obviously, like if you're standing up tall, you're just instantly, the communication changes completely. And it's like, we're making those big changes when you're moving the emotions out, when you're moving out the old ways you used to think, whatever. It can work on a couple of different levels. So I like, the power, the ballistic intensity of the swing, the kettlebell swing. We're standing up tall at the top. And I say cheesy shit in class. I really like, because you never know what little things might hit on people and it just sticks with you. And you're like, yeah, that's the thing that works for me. You're standing up tall at the top and you're like honoring yourself. Like I used to be, but now I'm standing up tall and I'm just like in my power. But that's very helpful for other people. Like if we think about us, we're all on a soccer team. We can't all be the goalie. We can't all be the runner. If I'm fast, I kind of have a responsibility to y'all to improve my running. Like I got to be running, So if we can stay like, yes, this is what might have happened to us. Yes, it was painful and it was difficult and I feel bad about myself and whatever. But I'm the judge and jury inside. So you kind of get to those places. And I just keep thinking about it. It's just those old emotions. They want to come out. So let them out. And how we build the structure. You change your diet a little bit. You're missing vitamin B. You never know, whatever. The things, maybe the people that you're hanging around with or the things you're listening to, everything's contributing to that old version. So, and it doesn't mean like you hate everybody and push everybody out of your life, but you slowly build that structure and it kind of changes it all the changes kind of work in tandem, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I like the topic. Love the conversation.
Yeah, it's very cool. And like
it's important to talk about these things. It's I think it's below surface. We tend to talk about surface things with people.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to talk about our emotions or what things are happening or what's going on internally in our patterns. These are not things that people want to look at. Have a tendency to hide it underneath or keep it to themselves or not look at it. So there's things to think about. Important topic as always. Alison, I want to thank you so much. It's been an honor and a blessing. And just want to say we're really lucky to have you on board as a coach at the Kettlebell Club. And again, I'll say it again, I'll repeat myself, but we've been blessed to have you, and the people that you've impacted goes way beyond. So
that's amazing. Thanks so much, Coach. I'm very grateful.
Yeah,
I'm grateful
pleasure.
to everybody that's been contributing to helping me soar too, because man, it's just super important. And there's so many amazing people. There's so many amazing people that have been hiding behind their desk, their emotions, their shit. And they're like, you never know, guys. Don't be afraid. Like taking little baby steps,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much and thanks for creating this platform for everybody, because it's
absolutely
so exciting.
So in any case, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Alison. And Alison, what would be the best way for people to reach you or reach out? Whether Instagram or Facebook or your Facebook page, what would be a good way?
Right. Well, I think definitely on Facebook and Instagram. I love the Insta. It's so fun messing around. Like I'm like, it's so exciting to be a little bit wacky and silly. I love making jokes. So I'm down, man. Whatever way works, Facebook or Instagram. My Facebook page, I kind of like use it here and there. But because to be honest, I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, a lot of this, my business, quote unquote, to this point has just been my healing path. Right. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I've got some good foundations in place. I can walk the talk. Let's do this. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks for that.
I appreciate you so much.
Right on. I appreciate you too, Coach. Have a really great
looking forward to many more other conversations with you.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Thanks, Alison.
Have a really great day, guys. Mwah. Take care.
Great.